Bonjour, my lovely friend Dion. Aren't you looking majestic in
Ah,
bed? You look so majestic and regal as always, but now it's like, whoa, into the bed. That's
thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. And I have my little
Oh,
teddy here in bed as well. Well, bonjour. Hello, hello, Natalie. So
bonjour.
full disclosure before we get started.
Yes.
I had to make sure I was wearing what I actually don't normally wear to bed because we're on YouTube and it's a family show. So if I was wearing what I normally wear, we probably have to be in a different program. So
Well, we just learned a little something about you right now.
So I
Just
just, all for you, want to make sure that you don't get kicked off of YouTube
bless your
for
heart. I don't
corporate.
know. You might have gotten more views. I don't know about that. Let me
Hey.
we'll figure out next time. Next time we'll discuss. We'll discuss what we should do for next time. That's too funny. Thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to see you. You're joining us from Toronto today,
Yes, yes,
from home in
Toronto.
Toronto. How are
hmm
things going? How's your summer? How are you planning and going into fall?
Well, despite, I mean, we know what's happening in terms of COVID and shutdowns and reopenings coming slowly. But besides that, I'm doing pretty good, actually. I mean, the weather has been amazing. I've been making sure I take some time for self-care. I can make sure every day I'm doing my meditation, I'm getting outside, keeping up my exercises as much as possible, trying to reduce the COVID 15, and or the quarantine 15, I think they call it, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm doing pretty good physically and just trying to keep active. I'm really trying to take advantage of this time to just get projects done that I didn't have time to do before. So,
Mm,
I've even started a couple of new projects I'm working on. So I'm really excited about getting those taken care of and done. But overall, things are okay. I mean, there's
good.
obviously emotional stuff that's going on right now as well. But counting my blessings, taking it one day at a time,
Nice.
and in terms of the fall, I'm also just thinking about certain things I want to tweak in my program offerings now that we're in this whole virtual world, and just really looking forward to seeing what I can do.
Yeah, you seem to be, and I mean, I always say you seem to be because people tell me sometimes they're like, "Oh, you're so whatever," and I'm like, is that according to social media? So you seem to be, because I don't want to make assumptions, but you seem to be having really grown into, like you said, your services and everything else, and on social, it looks like you're finding your space and finding joy in what you're doing on virtual. Is that the case?
hmm Well, it's a lot of growing pains. Like,
Mm,
to be very honest and authentic, I mean, those who are able to say everything's smooth sailing and they got 100 followers and viewers on their Zoom sessions, that's not me. I'm still going through my growing pains, but I am doing some online stuff. I was hesitant just because I'm not very technically savvy.
mm,
I know what I can do face to face in person, and my biggest obstacle is how do I take that energy and how do I take my passion
mm.
in a way that people can experience that through a screen. So at the same time, I'm realistic. Like, it's just not going to be the same over a screen than face to face. That's just what it is, and that's why we often want to see each other face to face because there's a different energy there, right?
Mm.
But I think I've learned to adapt to say that, what, this is an opportunity for me to reach out to people beyond just my immediate community. So
Mm,
being able to offer sessions to people no matter where they are. And I've
mm,
had people from, not just Canada, but the US that have showed interest in coming into a session and being able to experience that. So it's growing. It's also learning, and also the fact that because there's so many other people out there doing it, it's also a good kind of iron sharpening iron, because like, okay, I gotta up my game because there's a lot more people out there doing it. I want to make sure that I can be unique and stand out in some way.
and really develop your brand. I find that's what I've noticed. And I mean, because you and I had the pleasure of working together, or working alongside one another in Canada through some of the stuff that we did in Toronto, some of the stuff we did through CanFit Pro, the awards that you have won as the Fitness Professional of the Year, with CanFit Pro, and all the stuff that you've done and grown through that. It feels like your brand has gotten clear and clear, and I would say more and more attractive as it has, being like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to get, and therefore that's an easy buy, that's an easy purchase. Yes, I want to be able to be mentored and coached and trained by Dion. That's what I'm noticing anyways. Are you feeling more and more comfortable in, like you said, that iron sharpening iron, and let me go get clear on who my audience is and how I can serve them?
Oh, yes, yes, that certainly has been much more clear. Of course, with coaching, with help of others, I think it's important. Like you really have to be able to know who you are, what you can offer,
Mm,
what your strengths are. And I'm very comfortable. I know exactly what I can do and what I offer, and where my strengths are. And then I defer people to other people that may be stronger in certain capacities that work for them. So I just
right.
find that um, I do believe in the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. So you
Okay.
do have to choose, okay, this is what I'm going to work on. And I know my lane. I know I'm strong in certain things, and that's where I'm going to put my focus on. And everything else that comes out, I have to be able to be able to say the word no. That's just going to distract me.
Hmm.
That's just going to be, that's not going to allow me to be able to just work on the things that are really are the things that I can do well.
I'd
Right.
love to know more about that because we live in a time where, it's for the fitness industry that's trying to get back on its feet. We don't get a lot of opportunities that come our way, and it's easy sometimes to be like, but that's money and that's something I can do, and that's me doing what I do, even if it's close to it. How do you choose? How do you choose what to say yes or no to? So you talked about it being in our lane. How do you choose the partners, the companies, the employers are going to work with? What's helping you make those choices?
Well, one thing I first of all make sure is it along with my core values, right?
Mm,
So, if somebody, I remember one time, I'll give you a specific example, so we're just not
mhm.
talking in generalizations, like,
Sure.
um, and does it really fit with my brand? So I remember one time somebody contacted me. They wanted me to do a fitness class for children, and at first I thought, okay, sure, I can, my fault was I didn't specifically hone in the exact age group. Like I thought it
Mm,
was children that could follow a fitness class. So I adapted a class on that basis. But then I got there and realized that this was a toddler's birthday party. And I guess they wanted me to just be the clown. And it's fun, but that's not my brand. I'm not
uh,
going to come here and make balloons and all that kind of stuff. So I know moving forward that to ask the right questions to make
mm,
sure that, okay, do you understand that I'm an educator, I'm an instructor, I'm a motivator, but that is my lane. I'm not a performer. Like I'm not here
mm,
to put on a show for you.
mm,
So, that has helped me to really make clear that when I do get offers like that, I've had people, another example, I had somebody contact me. They wanted to do a bachelorette party,
yeah,
and they wanted to do like a dance fitness class. I thought, oh, great. But my boyfriend was helping me set up, right? He's helping me bring in the equipment, and they're like, "Oh, is that the stripper?" It's like, no, no. Right? So I've just learned to make
wait,
sure I
what's the
ask the,
budget? No, I'm kidding.
yeah, yeah. What is you got to pay a little bit more if you want that,
Oh
right?
no.
But it's just really about making sure that when
Mm,
people, it's great to think out the box, but just ensuring that I'm setting the right expectation that I'm here to do a fitness class, which requires education, which requires participation.
yeah,
And that's my brand. I'm not here to put on a show. Like if you want a dance show, then I can
mm,
refer you to my colleagues who's a dancer and choreographer,
right,
and they'll do that for you. But
right.
for me, I'm here to teach a class. So
Mhm,
those are some of the questions I ask
mm.
or make sure I'm clear with myself and others with.
And what about now moving forward? Because I mean, with so in Toronto and Ontario and a lot of the provinces in Canada and in the states through the U.S. and a lot of places around the world, um, places are opening, reopening. There's sanitary protocols in place and whatnot. How are you choosing the right projects, places, employers, collaborators for the next few months? Because we talked about it's tough for planners right now, but we want to be able to pick and choose, and yet find work and do what we love. And so how's that going for you?
Well, two things I keep in mind. I mean, there are some places that are still not fully open, and I think it's just due to the just how they're positioned. Like if it's a very small space studio, then it may not be conducive for them to open because not all of the clients are comfortable coming back.
Hmm.
So so far, most of the places that I'm teaching with have chosen to do more online and virtual stuff. So I'm working with them on that. But moving forward, to answer your question, two things I'm going to be deciding upon
Okay.
is number one is my own personal safety. Are they going to make sure that they have protocols in place? Because if I get sick, I'm obviously no good to anyone, right?
Hmm.
So making sure that they have the right protocols in place for the safety of the instructors. And the second thing, which I think has become more of a conversation, which I'm glad we're having, is around social justice and diversity and inclusion.
Hmm.
So I will prefer to align myself with a company that I know that is actively working towards diversity and inclusion and is able to demonstrate that. So even though, yes, I may be the instructor, but I'll be asking questions like, okay, is there diversity and inclusion along the entire spectrum of your organization?
Hmm.
Not just the people being paid at a lower rate, but your managers, your executives, your board of directors, I would like to know what are your plans for that. And if they don't have any plans, then perhaps I would rather align myself with a company that is invested in that, and maybe they can think about ways that they can adjust their thinking in that area.
Hmm. If they don't have any plans, but they're open to maybe like maybe saying, well, the first step is this, so our plan right now is to start, and they would look for you perhaps for suggestions or for things moving forward or things to look into. Is that something that you'd be open to discussing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
as long as I know that they're willing to set something up, but if they're like, no, we have 100% white ownership, white staff, like there's
Mm.
this one club I was thinking about and I was taking a look at them and I thought, there is no diversity and this is Toronto. Right. So if they're not willing to have a conversation and think about
Mm.
steps and ways, then I'd rather align myself with those that are willing to have a conversation
Yeah.
and think, okay, what can we do? And maybe we can bring you into the conversation or bring someone else. That's fine, but
Mm.
at least try if they're at least trying to do something. And there's a number of organizations that I've seen that I actually am connected with. Like there's one I just had an email yesterday actually from actually a running organization.
Mm.
And I've worked with them before, and they reached out to me and they said, we'd love we're actively looking for Black-owned organizations, not-for-profit organizations that we want to include. And they included my foundation, and they specifically asked me if I know of any others I could recommend. So
Oh,
to me,
wow.
that's good. That's
Mm.
what I would like to see, and I think many others within the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, people of color community, would like to see, like actions that are taking place to create a more diverse environment in these organizations.
Mm. And I think it's interesting because I've had the conversation about this with a couple of other colleagues, and doing my best to ask the questions, to have the inclusions. To you and I had talked before all of this about eventually you and I doing some work together. So the timing's great, and let's move forward into that conversation as to how systemic racism resonates in the fitness industry, in the Canadian fitness industry, and it's things that you've been talking about for a while. So how does it feel right now for you for this light to be shined on it? And are you pleased with some of the steps? You just named one, but some of the steps that you're seeing for our industry?
Well, it's complicated. Like
Yeah.
I'm in one hand happy that these conversations are being had
Mm.
because if we don't even have the conversation, we can't work on resolution.
Mm.
So I'm happy for that. I would have loved if this conversation and these steps were happening much before. Like it's
Mm.
unfortunate that it took a knee in someone's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds for people to start waking up. And I'm not saying there weren't people that were awake before, because I know many people, many of my white colleagues, even just beyond from the fitness industry, that have been involved with social justice for years, long time before, right? But it's just unfortunate that when it comes to the portion of systemic racism portion of being able to have more inclusion at higher levels, that it took this long.
Mm.
But regardless, people are coming to the table now. They're coming to the party. So my attitude is, okay, you might be late to the party, but you're here. Let's grab you a spoon and a fork and let's get to the buffet and let's get to it, right? So yeah, so that's why I say my feelings are kind of mixed,
Mm.
and also I'm hoping that it's not just a signal for some short time.
Mm.
I'm hoping that there's an understanding that this is something that's going to take years, and that there is a long-term commitment. after the cameras stop talking about this, after, the next thing comes up, I'm really hoping that these organizations will put in terms some long-term plans
Mm.
of dealing with this. And it's beyond, I mean, hiring is obviously one area in terms of hiring practices, but also um, even just dealing with people in various different cultures. Like I've had many experiences of being dealt with differently, whether it be pay rate, whether it be disciplinary practices, than a white colleague would have been dealt with. So really honing in on those type of practices as well to ensure that companies are taking a look at their internal biases from their managers or whatever, and owning up to it and saying, okay, let's figure out how we're going to fix this as well.
Mm. So talk to us from, 'cause there's a couple of hats that you wear that are a lot of the people that watch the In Bed With series, and I'd love to know what we can do, a couple of steps. So talk to us from an instructor hat. So for your fellow instructors, trainers, coaches out there in North America and beyond, what are one or two steps that we can do to help move the conversation forward and keep it in the stratosphere of what we're thinking about in the months and years to come?
And in terms of just to be clear, I want to make sure I answer the
Yeah.
question
So
correctly.
what you can do as an instructor, so some people who listen are decision makers, and we covered that a little bit. What about the people that are like, yeah, but what can I do? I'm
Mhm.
just an instructor. I'm just trying to keep my job right now. What can I do to try and support my organization, my industry in the social justice and making sure that there's more diversity in our industry?
Well, I think as an instructor, we shouldn't be afraid to shy away from the conversations. I know, like at the end of the day, we have bills to pay, and obviously, if I were to run into a club with my fist in the air, wearing a Black Lives Matter T-shirt and waving, a flag, that probably would get me in trouble. So I'm not suggesting that's what we should supposed to be doing, but not to shy from the conversation. So, yes, it's exhausting sometimes to have these conversations, but if somebody wants to engage, being able to be a little open, and also just being able to say, okay, maybe right now I might not be able to have a conversation about social justice in my experience right at the end of the step class,
Mm,
but maybe we can we can schedule a time and we can talk about it, type of thing. So
mm,
that's one thing I think as instructors we can just be open to be able to have a conversation. Also being able to be humble, and not assuming. Sometimes we can get too emotional, when it comes to this topic, without asking more questions and
mm,
listening, and doing research, and understanding the history. That also helps as well.
mm,
um, I think as instructors as well, being able to gently maybe bring it to the attention of the managers. Like if you're
mm,
looking around and you don't see any people, that you don't see much diversity, finding a gentle way, maybe over a phone call or a
mm.
face-to-face conversation, and just saying, I noticed that there is like 90% white people, white instructors. Have you thought of maybe including some other people from other groups?
Mm.
So that's probably one thing as instructors we can do. Um, I think the second part of the question.
So the second part of the question was, so first one as an instructor, and then as an educator, because you're a business owner, you're present at conferences, you do lots of your own webinars and things like that. So as an educator, what are some of the things that you're like, this is something that I find has resonated well with people and has moved us forward a little bit, that some other educators might be able to sink their teeth into also?
I'll say as an educator slash leader. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I do fitness demos for my company. I'll do like warm up rallies at racing events and things
Mm,
of that nature. And when I am in a position where I can hire or I can include people,
mm,
I deliberately make sure that my team is very diverse. So I have 4 people right now that usually come out with me to various different events. So I make sure I have a girl who's from Asian background. I have white guy. I have somebody who's from Middle East. I have Black women and from either from Caribbean and from parts of Africa. So I make sure that I include very diverse people that even come with me on demos,
mm.
so that people in the audience can see themselves
See
reflected,
themselves reflected. Mm,
and not just in skin tone, but in body shapes as well. So I also make
mm,
sure that I don't just look for the person with the 6-pack. I want everyone to feel that no matter what your shape is,
Mm,
you can do this, you can participate. Right. And, also as educators and leaders, just making sure as well to include people that might be a better voice. So if you're doing a presentation and you might be speaking on a topic that somebody from another group might be more well versed on, including people being able to co-instruct or co-teach
mm,
or co-lead in some capacity with more diversity, I think is also something that we can do as well.
mm,
So I think the bottom line is that we can do something. Doing nothing upholds the status quo, but if doing something is better than nothing,
mhm,
is my suggestion. And it doesn't have to be a grandiose measure. It doesn't have to be starting a not-for-profit or marching in the
mm.
street. It can just be a small gesture that leads to bigger things.
It's interesting, we're in a time right now where the fitness clubs who have reopened in, certainly most of Canada, if not most of North America, sometimes reclosed, but reopen again, are struggling. A lot of them are struggling to get their people back and then looking in the season ahead, thinking about where sales will come from, but remembering that only, depending on where you look at, between 8 to 25% of people exercise in a structured fitness facility. Perhaps some of that has to do with the diversity that we don't have in the leadership and in that, and maybe that's a way to touching a population that has always looked for services and support and opportunities to move better, yet didn't, like you said, didn't see themselves in the instructors and trainers and coaches that were either part of the marketing or part of the personnel. So maybe now's a really good opportunity to try and diversify that even more. Would you say that that's a good time to do that?
Yes, for sure. And these,
Mm,
I'll even give another example
yeah.
of why diversity matters, even when like in fitness, and why you need to have people of very different backgrounds. For example, I've had many clients actually from the Muslim faith. And when we're talking about nutrition
Mm,
and it's Ramadan, then we have to have a conversation about that. So if you're not sensitive to being able to understand different belief systems and different nutritional systems and how they believe,
mm,
then it poses a problem. So that's one of the reasons why I think diversity matters, because we have clients coming from various different backgrounds. And if they can see there's other people, even though I'm not from the Muslim faith, but I've studied about it and I have many friends who are from that faith, then when I'm training a client of the Muslim faith, I can speak to him or her on that.
mm,
When we're approaching Ramadan, I can make suggestions of what we can do and how we can adjust things to ensure that um, we're not interfering with their belief system, but at the same time keeping them healthy and strong. So that's one of the things why diversity matters, is that when you have people who are truly have lived a certain experience or very close to living the experience, then we can make them feel more welcome, more included,
mm.
and still help them to get to their fitness goals, regardless of what their belief systems or their practices and cultures are.
Yeah. Versus well, if you're not eating, we're not training, let me know when Ramadan's over, which I'm
Yeah.
sure probably happens a lot. I'm sure happens a lot, in a lot of those types of situations, with the same similar situations in different faiths as they relate to their nutrition and how they're preparing themselves and fueling their workouts or not, and the fear behind that. And so that's a really great example to use. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let me ask you this. So 2020 is going to be a interesting year, not necessarily what we would have planned. Tell me a bit as an instructor, as a coach who's learning and growing through this, who's going to virtual, who works with a lot of different organizations, have your own charities and your work that you're doing and your teams that you work with. What keeps you grounded? What keeps you positive and optimistic about what lies ahead for us?
Well, what's for me that keeps me very grounded is, one, I do take the time to meditate.
Mm,
I need that time to just be still,
mm,
and also I love to read, so I like to fill myself with as much knowledge as possible, and that really helps me to keep me centered, because the more I can learn, the more I can see things outside of my own eyes and my own vision box. That really helps me to appreciate so much more things as well. And sure, it can feel down sometimes, especially when you turn the news on and you're like, oh no, more cases, and
mm,
are we ever going to get to some kind of normalcy, or what are we going to do for the future? But for me, those two things, well, three things, of course, and of course, staying physically active
mm,
really helps me to kind of stay grounded, stay positive, stay focused, and at the same time, be realistic. Like there's not every day I feel like jumping up and going for a run. There's
Mm.
times when I'm just like, I'm just going to stay in my pajamas all day. you know?
Wait, you didn't want pajamas.
Oh, that's right.
Girl, it's a fun day for you. Yeah. So
Yeah.
listening to what you need, but at the same time trying to find a bit of a structure based on what
Mhm.
grounds you. So
Exactly.
meditation, reading, and your own personal exercise. Would that be the three that are important to you?
For sure, for sure. And
Mm,
also just I'll throw in another thing is that taking the time to connect. I know we can't face to face connect all the time,
mm,
or at least be limited. But I do take the time to, get onto a visual connection piece, however you do, whether it's Zoom or whatever, with just friends
mm,
to just connect. Like a couple weeks ago, I got together with some ladies and we had a virtual wine tasting, which
mm.
so we were all swirling our wines through the screen.
Oh,
So
that's fun.
just so that's fun, like stuff like that. Just staying connected in some way so that you can just lift each other's spirits up and
Mm.
encourage one another.
Well, you lift my spirits up, and so thank you for staying connected with me, and thank you for your time and your generosity of spirit as always, and being so open to having these conversations and happy to reach out. And so I really appreciate that you're there for that. And we will have all the handles and everything so that people can find Dione on social, whether it be to connect, whether it be to look at some of the things that you're talking about, some of the suggestions and invitations you put out there, or even get nice and hot and sweaty with you from time to time. So I
Yes,
appreciate it
please.
so much, and be well. And hopefully the next time that I can be in your neck of the woods, we're able to connect again in person. And in the meantime, doing it this way.
Thank you, Natalie, for having me and being in bed with you. Ooh.
Mm. First time for
Move
everything.
over. Move over, hubby. I'm coming.
It was nice to see you, sweetheart. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Love you lots.